Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below. Your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Please reach out to me directly. Email tmosso@thewatchbox.com for pricing details. I love days like this when I get to share watches of the type you see here. Different, independent, rare, innovative. This is the Armin Strom Gravity Equal Force Oster Jewelers 20th Anniversary Limited Edition. A 10-piece limited series in rose gold for Oster Jewelers of Denver, Colorado. It was actually the second special edition they did after a different series back in 2020. Make no mistake, this is the 2022 version of the Oster Limited Edition, and it is gorgeous. 41 millimeters in diameter, it's 13 millimeters thick. It is 48.3 millimeters from lug tip to lug tip with a 20 millimeter spacing between the lugs. This is part of Armin Strom's Series 78 collection of watches that launched in 2019. That was the same year this model launched, and the idea was to create something that was innovative and high mech, but at a more accessible price point than you generally associate with whatever given function they chose for that specific Series 78 watch. And in the case of this Series 78 watch, the high mech that they wanted to add was constant force to the escapement, something you generally see in horlogerie watches that cost multiples what this does. Now, the watch is easy to wear on my 16 centimeter circumference wrist, and I'll show you that. Being 41 millimeters in diameter, it is not a large watch in the oversized sense. It's what I would call a full-sized watch. It's neither oversized nor tiny. It has a confident stance on the wrist, and it's viable even if your wrist is as small as 15 centimeters circumference. Also, having a sloped bezel and a 13 millimeter thickness, it will slide underneath most cuffs. It has a sheer side, but it's not as thick as it looks, and it's quite comfortable on the wrist. You can see over the top, I've got some clearance on either side, and I'm actually pulling the strap down fairly tightly. The strap is a lovely piece, as you can see, custom colored for this edition. There's a sort of washed out navy blue and a contrasting gold stitch. We have large rectangular scale alligator leather with big symmetrical scales. That's an expensive cut of alligator leather. Money was expended on this edition, and in all the right places you can see. The strap has a broad folded edge on the bottom. It's small round scale alligator. This is what you'll find on Vacheron, de Bethune, F. Pigeon, Louis Ulysse Chopard. Gator on both sides makes for a more expensive but longer lasting strap, and that's why it's here. The buckle, an Armin Strom branded piece, features a combination of satin and polish, which I like because it echoes the design of the movement. The case is simple but strong, as you can see. Pre-owned watch. There are some marks on it, but it's in good shape overall. A strong driver, and you can see it has never been refinished. So all of the original metal is intact, and the lugs still have their wonderful sharp angles and separation seams between satin and polish. Of course, I can improve it a little bit with a polishing cloth, which I'll do right now, so you can see some of its fetching features, including lugs that are broken out from the case band. And rather than using a conventional longitudinal satin, you can see it uses a short vertical satination all the way around. The bezel construction is fairly complex. As you can see, it has two different planes, and then we have a crown, once again Armin Strom branded, and a dial that is basically one and the same as the Armin Strom movement. This is the AS-GEF-18KRG-Oster, and the guilloche here done by Kari Voutilainen. Quite impressive stuff for the special edition. Voutilainen created a number of sensational guilloche patterns, some of which were actually inspired by timepieces owned by the Oster family. And you can see we have a lovely dial that has radially arrayed gold or rose gold gilt style Arabic numerals. We have skeletonized hands that are sort of a fusion of syringe and baton. We have small seconds cut in, and then we have guilloche on the base plate of the movement. You can see that all of the wheels, including the barrel, have satination. There's engine turning on the base plate, and that you can see on both sides, including with blued engine turning. Take a quick look at the bridges. Now we'll go from the top to bottom. Here's the micro rotor automatic. This is an automatic winding movement. It has a 72-hour power reserve. Note that the bridge has been mirror beveled outside and inside, and that the interior beveling, I'll try to catch the light here, features not one but two sharp interior angles where bevels meet. You'll find two more, and even more on the reverse side. Now you can also see there's satination across the top. All of the screw heads are black polished and their slots and circumference chamfered. We have satination across all the wheels, and you'll note that the wheels have even been internally beveled. That's an horlogerie mark of distinction that you rarely see on watches costing less than six figures, to be perfectly honest. Now at the base, we have the system that makes all this work. We have a mainspring barrel that uses a Geneva-style stopworks. Now what you're looking at is a little power reserve indicator that sits on top of the barrel. Again, 72 hours of power reserve. Now there's a stopworks. It will stop the spring at both ends of its travel. If you were to graph the torque of an average mainspring, it'll be very fat and very flat in the center. So there should be a sudden surge of torque at the beginning when it's fully wound, and then a drop off at the end as it approaches exhaustion. With the stopworks, Armin Strom has created a mechanical block that prevents the watch from running at either extreme. Only the flat part of the torque curve in the middle is allowed to keep the watch running. So in theory, the barrel could rotate 12 times given the energy in the mainspring, but via the stopworks, it will only rotate 9 times. This ensures that whenever the escapement is in operation, it is getting equal force, so the watch will stop rather than run imprecisely. So for 72 hours, courtesy of the mainspring and the stopworks, the specific mainspring curve is important, and they picked a high-grade spring, but you get constant force without a fusée, without a remontoir, with any kind of system that's going to add mechanical baggage, complexity, and expense, and it's quite clever. You can also see something that's unusual on a wristwatch. This is a motor barrel. Notice how I wind it. See, as I'm winding it, it is engaging a little eccentric intermediate wheel that winds the toothed edge of the barrel. Well, normally on a watch, when you wind it, or it automatically winds itself, a ratchet wheel on the top winds the arbor, and then the toothed edge of the barrel drives the drivetrain. On a motor barrel, what happens is you actually wind the toothed edge of the barrel, and then the arbor, or the axle on the center of the barrel, projects out of the barrel, which it does right here, and it drives the train leading up to the escapement. Now this is partly a little vintage flourish, because this was common in the pocket watch era, especially on American pocket watches, but it does have the side benefit that if the mainspring were to break, it would not shatter the escapement, which is generally what would happen if a conventional non-motor barrel suffers a mainspring failure. And the motor barrel was also chosen because in combination with the stopworks and this particular mainspring curve they've used, it helps them to get a more even delivery of torque to the escapement. Now you will note that the escapement is free sprung, which makes it more shock tolerant, and we have here a stop seconds function, so you can actually halt the watch and set it to the second. Note that we have recessed bolts. This is an aerodynamic recessed bolt, a variable polar moment balance. All of the adjustments are made by moving the bolts in and out to change the polar moment or the turning force, so that's how that works. All of this 30 meters water resistance, so it's dress watch water resistance. It beats at a quirky 25,200 vibration per hour rate that Armin Strom has chosen for most of its watches. Pivots on 28 joules. And you can see it's nicely decorated. We have satination on top of the barrel, incredibly broad stripes across the bridges. You can see underneath still more stripes, but on a bridge with a darker color, a little bit of a different shade, darker gray. You can see the individual finger train bridges have been satinated on their top and beautifully mirror beveled on their side. Here we feature more of that interior beveling with interior angles. You can see we have a combination of satination and media blasting across the plate at center. The watch comes with a number of spare parts, an oddity that I've rarely seen on wristwatches. I've seen it on pocket watches, but the watch comes with what appears to be an hour wheel, a minute wheel, an intermediate wheel, and a stem, which I guess is nice if you ever need those parts and your watchmaker is handy. An unusual accessory set that I've rarely seen, but more is better. Sometimes that's what luxury is all about. This movement is finished impressively for the price, and the watch is impressively engineered. Normally, watches with this many features, built-in editions this small, with this much custom work by the likes of Kari Voutilainen, would cost solidly over 6 figures, so it's refreshing to see Armin Strom delivering something this capable and this beautiful. And with only 10 made, it's likely you will never see another. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.